Now, great pleasure. Joining us here, New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, chair of the House GOP Congress. Elise, welcome. Thank you ever so much. Let me just begin. I want to talk about as much as we can talk about, but one thing Mr. Trump's going to do, he's going to hold Kamala's feet to the fire. Her values haven't changed. She took Joe Biden's platform, and now it's her platform. And the polls are showing recently, as I'm sure you know, people regard her as too liberal and too progressive. So what do you make of this right at the top, Elise Stefanik? How does this play?
Well, Kamala Harris owns and is one of the reasons behind Joe Biden's catastrophic failures. In fact, she is Joe Biden's open border czar. That means she owns the border crisis that impacts every community, every state across the country. On the issue of inflation, which is the highest rate of inflation in my lifetime, impacting every family, small business, farm in this country, Kamala Harris was the deciding vote in the Senate for the Inflation Expansion Act, which is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's pinnacle of their economic policy, which has caused us not only painful inflation, but trillions and trillions of debt. In addition, she was the last one in the room advising Joe Biden on the catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan. Today, we just had the Congressional Gold Medal ceremony for those 13 Gold Star families, honoring those 13 service members who lost their lives. She needs to be held accountable. President Trump will hold her accountable for her failures. Compare that to the success of President Trump. Historic economic growth with your help, Larry, strong national security, peace through strength, as well as the most secure border in our lifetime. So you will see strength and success under President Trump versus weakness and policy failures hurting Americans under Kamala Harris.
You know, Elise, I want to depart from my usual economic script for a minute because, you know, you raise a point. The Afghanistan catastrophe, which is much in the news, including the Gold Star families that Mr. Biden has ignored. But correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Harris is a cultural liberal, very much a proponent of DEI, very much a proponent of DEI. I think you would agree with that. And as you and I have talked over the past year or so, diversity, equity, and inclusion in many ways is the progenitor of the anti-Semitism wave that has struck the U.S. and the anti-Israel wave. Now, I'm not accusing Ms. Harris of anti-Semitism. I'm not going there. But I am saying DEI, which she supports, which all these Biden administration spending initiatives have as part of their regulations, there's been a big problem. And I think that's something that ought to get rid of. And I kind of hope that Mr. Trump gets a whack at that. What do you think on that subject? You've spoken out openly on these things. They're so darn important.
Well, you're exactly right, Larry. Not only is she a cultural liberal, we can look at her record. She was the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. This is a San Francisco radical, defund the police, open borders liberal. And when it comes to propping up those offices of DEI, it's not just our higher ed institutions. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, DEI has been a priority for the Department of Defense that should be focused on our military lethality, peace through strength. So it has rotted out not only higher education, but it's rotted out these agencies that should be focused on American greatness, American excellence. You are right that at the root of DEI is anti-Semitism, and Kamala Harris has not spoken out strongly enough when it comes to combating anti-Semitism and combating anti-Semitism. She has turned her back on standing with our most precious ally, Israel, and has been the loudest voice calling for a ceasefire, which is unilaterally forcing Israel to disarm itself, versus under President Trump, we had the historic Abraham Accords, we had peace in the Middle East, and he stood strongly with Israel.
Now, coming back to the economy, you know, the speech, Newt Gingrich says the speech she gave in Atlanta on the economy is really more important than her Democratic National Convention speech. I mean, look, price gouging or price controls, same difference. It fails every time. A $2 trillion spending plan, free money at housing, $25,000. All that's going to do is make home prices go up. But that's the Biden playbook, right? Higher spending, higher taxing, throw free money at something. Prices are going to go up, not go down. I don't hear them here. Let me rephrase, Elise Stefanik. I don't hear growth. I never hear Joe Biden talk about growth. I hear he talks about punishing successful people. I hear Kamala talking about punishing success. Never the word growth. Growth is very important. A lot of Americans, we did a poll with TIP, the Issues and Insights group. 90% of Americans like growth. Where's the growth in the Democratic platform?
Well, there isn't, and Kamala Harris's speech, it should concern every American, and it does. Not only did it have socialist price fixing, but her economic plan includes the largest tax increase in our nation's history, to the tunes of trillions of dollars. It includes doubling down on the inflationary policies under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Compare that with the historic and successful speech that President Trump delivered at the Economic Club of New York that talked about unleashing economic growth, unleashing pro-business, pro-small business, pro-U.S. manufacturing, lowering taxes, cutting regulations. We know the recipe for success. We saw it in the first term of President Trump, where we had significant wage growth and salary growth. We had the highest number of workers in our workforce, including working women, including African Americans and Hispanic Americans. Under Kamala Harris, what we've seen is salary cuts because of this inflationary impact, as well as unemployment continuing to tick up, and a very concerning economic status around the country when you talk to small businesses or manufacturers. So this is a clear contrast. Kamala Harris represents trillions of dollars of new taxes that would devastate our economy, let alone the unrealized capital gains tax that she has proposed, which would absolutely devastate all of Americans' real estate, their 401ks, their IRAs. It would devastate them.
You think it's her last dance tonight, Elise, or do you think she's going to go on and live to fight another day? It's a little hard question. If you want to pass on it, it's okay. But I know you don't pass on anything. I mean, I think this is her last dance. She either gets it done tonight or it's kind of over.
Well, certainly the American people are going to be tuning in, and the more they learn about Kamala Harris, the lower her support goes. And President Trump is going to make a clear contrast between his policies of success versus her policies of failure and weakness. So the more the American people know, her numbers will continue to get lower.
You know what? That's a great answer to a really terrible question. It's a terrific answer. So it's great. Elise, you're wonderful to come on. Thank you ever so much. Talk soon.
Thank you, Larry.